Hey everyone, and welcome to a brand new video. Tonight we have a 4-part series by the name of My Wife Went Out to the Shore and Didn't Return. Don't worry, all 4 parts are in this video, so you don't have to go looking for the other parts. I figured that's way easier than uploading like part 1 today, part 2 tomorrow. This way it's all just right here. Anyway, if you do enjoy this video, please be sure to drop a like rating. Let's go for 1,200 likes. Subscribing if you are new is also very much appreciated, as I post content just like this all of the time. This is a mystery themed story, so please be sure to not leave any spoilers in the comments section. Anyway, enjoy the video, and as always, I hope you all have a great night. Part 1. I woke up on my couch this morning. The first thing I noticed was the piercing headache that comes with a horrible hangover. And then I acknowledged that waking up on my couch, with obvious signs of heavy drinking, instead of doing so in my bed with my wife peacefully sleeping beside me, was not exactly encouraging. So as I got up and went to clean myself off, I tried my best to remember everything that took place last night. As soon as I did, felt guilty. My wife Sophia and I had a heated argument that ended when I eventually passed out on my couch from all the alcohol I consumed. As soon as I stepped into our room, I noticed that she wasn't asleep on the bed like I expected her to be. There was no sign of her actually. Not her phone, nor her shoes, not her purse or any of her clothing laying around our room. Nothing. I figured that maybe I woke up a lot later than I thought, and she simply went out to grab lunch with her friends. This theory was quickly buried when I checked the time on my phone. It was only 9:20 a.m. This shook me up quite a bit, and I didn't know where she was or what she was doing hours after I drunkenly told her the most insulting and degrading things I could think of. Do you see where this is going? She could have spent the night revenge fucking some random loser for all I know. At that moment, I wanted nothing more than to hug her and apologize for all of the horrible things I said to her. The guilt I was feeling was only worsened when I noticed her profile picture was missing from my contact apps, meaning she either just removed it or blocked me. The latter seemed like the most likely of the two options, as ever since we met, she had always kept the same picture of her and her twin sister Casey. I figured I needed to clear my mind before doing anything stupid, so I decided to step into the bathroom to take a shower. As soon as I did, I let out a huge sigh of relief when I saw a sticky note attached to the mirror. It read, "Hey Alex, I'm really sorry about last night. I know I was acting like a total maniac and provoked you into saying things you didn't mean. I want you to know that I'm not mad at you, and that nothing is wrong. I just went out to the beach to take a walk on the shore. I would have told you all of this in person, but you seem pretty passed out, and I didn't want to wake you up. Anyways, I'll be back soon. I love you." I smiled as I picked up the note and read it. However, I couldn't help but think that despite this obvious sign that I was just overthinking the whole situation, something still felt wrong. I brushed it off and proceeded to take a nice, long, hot shower. I felt a lot better as soon as I stepped out. My hangover had improved significantly, and the stabbing sense of guiltiness was almost gone. I got dressed and quickly tried to call Sophia, but it went straight to voicemail. This just made that lingering sense of worry suddenly reawaken itself, but then again, the beach had pretty much no signal, so I didn't worry about it too much and decided not to act immediately. Big mistake. Minutes turned into hours as I desperately waited for her to arrive. All I could think about was her shiny, long blonde hair and those beautiful blue eyes. I soon realized it had been 4 hours since I picked up the note she left me, which would have meant she had been away for a lot more since I had no idea when she left. She never spent that much time at the beach, so about 1:30 p.m., I decided to leave my house and go look for her. I ran into my good friend Max on the way to the beach. He told me he just left his surf shop and how excited he is about working on a customized board for one of the clients. He quickly noticed I wasn't exactly matching his energy and seemed quite worried. He asked me if anything was wrong and how he could help. That was just classic Max. He was always there for his loved ones. He'd stick with those close to him through thick and thin no matter what. That's why I was really glad I ran into him on this particular day. I needed that kind of support now more than ever. I quickly explained the situation to Max, and his typical massive smile gradually turned into a serious expression, and I let out my concerns. He took a deep breath before speaking. Okay. I would have thought she'd just stayed mad and crashed somewhere, but that note really complicates everything. He then thought for a moment before speaking again. Maybe she's actually still mad at you, and still crashed somewhere, but she left you that note so you wouldn't come looking for her. I wouldn't worry too much, man. She's probably at one of her friend's house talking shit about you right now. But that's how it goes with her, man. She's a drama queen. She wouldn't just leave you without a big final showdown face to face, right? What he said did make sense, but I was still worried. Yeah, exactly. She wouldn't just leave without saying anything. That's why I'm worried. What if she actually came here and something happened to her? I replied, well, in that case, I'm here to help you look for her. Although I really don't think she's kidnapped or anything. That's insane. Trust me, she's probably at someone's house enjoying some time away from her psychopathic husband. He let out a soft chuckle, but quickly turned serious again when he saw his joke didn't amuse me at all. Look, man, if you're gonna help me look for her, I really appreciate it. If not, don't get in my way, I said with a stone-cold expression on my face. Roger that, he said as he quickly ran back towards the surf shop. I assumed he chose the latter of the two options I gave him, and scoffed quietly as I arrived at the beach. I was mistaken. About 20 minutes after he left, I heard Max calling out for me. I was too focused on looking for any sign of Sophia to turn around immediately, but when I did, I was delighted to see my friend alongside the entire staff of his surf shop making their way towards me. They were equipped with flashlights, binoculars, and even an automatic weapon, in case things went sour. I couldn't help but smile at the sight before me, and greet my friend with a hug. We wasted no time and immediately split up into 4 groups, walking around the beach and asking every pedestrian if they've seen a blonde-haired woman in her mid-20s earlier this morning. We were met with negative answers over and over again, until the sun started to set and our hope of finding Sophia slowly disappeared with it. Before I knew it, it was already 7 p.m. We had been asking around for any sight of my wife for more than 5 hours, and most of Max's team were starting to lose hope entirely. One of them suggested we call off our search, and instead file a missing person report with the local police. I stubbornly refused, noting that the local police is extremely incompetent and a missing person report almost always leads to nothing. But deep down, I knew that was my best bet. Max quickly said, I agree with Alex. The police won't do anything to help us, but Detective Hoffman might be a different story. I'll call him right now. I was confused by his statement. However, it gave me hope. Whoever this Detective Hoffman guy is could really help us right now. At least help us more than the police would. Max quickly explained to me that Detective Hoffman is the client he talked to me about earlier. He was shopping for a birthday present to give to his son, and a custom surfboard from Max's shop was what he chose. Max told me that they had become great friends, which by his standards most likely meant that they were mild acquaintances, but whatever kind of relationship they had was irrelevant. What mattered was that this guy was a trained detective who also worked as a private investigator, and after a short phone conversation with Max, He agreed to help me find my wife in exchange for a hefty discount on his customized surfboard. I was so thankful that Max actually agreed to this, especially considering that initially he thought that there was nothing to worry about, but hey, that's Max for you. Detective Hoffman and I got in touch as soon as he ended his conversation with Max. We agreed to meet at my house that same night, so I said goodbye to Max and his crew, thanking them and especially Max for their help, and quickly made my way back home. I still had a sliver of hope in me that as soon as I walked into my house, Sophia would be right there waiting for me. Of course, that wasn't the case. But my disappointment was short-lived, as about 10 minutes after I arrived, I got a knock on the door. It was Hoffman. I opened the door and greeted a tall but slender man into my home. He gave me a firm handshake and asked if he could come inside. Of course, I responded affirmatively, and he immediately took off his large, black trench coat to reveal a minimalistic, yet elegant white shirt and a red tie. He made his way into my kitchen and asked me if I had any bourbon. I was a bit shocked by his confidence. Usually, I would be the one to offer booze to my guests. I didn't have bourbon, but I did have about half a bottle of scotch left, so I offered it to him, and he gladly accepted. I took out 2 glasses and handed them to him. He served a generous amount of the brown liquid to each glass, put them on my kitchen table, and invited me to sit down. Again, his confidence was definitely a bit shocking to me, and I could have definitely mistaken it for arrogance. But I decided to keep these thoughts to myself. The only thing that mattered to me was finding Sophia. Listen, Alex, I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I need you to be 100% honest with me if you want us to get anywhere. Understood? Yes, I understand, Detective. Fantastic. Now I want you to know that we have a confidentiality agreement in place, meaning anything you say cannot legally be shared to anyone. Understood? Yes, understood, I replied. I definitely got a bit nervous when he asked me that. I was afraid of what he could ask next. Did you murder, attempt to intimidate, or attempt to physically or psychologically harm Sophia Atkinson? I was lost for words. I froze up. This Sherlock Holmes doppelganger thinks I killed my own wife. No, of course not. How dare you even suggest that in my own home? I can't begin to explain how. He calmly cut me off. No need to get defensive now, Alex. I just need to have a full understanding of the situation, so I can make an informed decision on how to proceed. I am not suggesting anything. He spoke again before I could reply. Tell me about Sophia. Did she show any change in her character in the days leading up to her disappearance? Did she show any signs of desiring to terminate your relationship? Is she closer to any of her relatives or friends than she is to you? I thought for a few seconds, and then began to tell him about our big fight. I was drunk and thought it would somehow be acceptable to demand she stop seeing her twin sister Casey so often. I hate to admit this, but I got jealous. I was jealous that my wife was spending time with her sister. God, I'm such an idiot. I told Hoffman about Casey. Her and Sophia were extremely close, but oddly enough, I never got to spend much time with her. Sure, I knew who she was and had seen her around sometimes, but I never got the chance to properly introduce myself to her. The closest I ever got was at my wedding, when she congratulated me and Sophia, and we exchanged a few words of gratitude, but that was really it. I was bothered by the fact that my wife spent so much time with someone who was practically a stranger to me, even though I had absolutely no right to feel that way since they've literally known each other since they were born. I understand. Do you happen to know where this individual resides at? Hoffman asked, referring to Casey, of course. Yes, she lives about 4 blocks away. I replied, not entirely understanding the purpose of Hoffman's question. Good. I would like to go speak to her immediately. I'll wait for you inside my vehicle, he said, and quickly stood up, grabbed his trench coat, and stepped outside. I was a bit shocked by this, but I remembered my goal of finding Sophia, so I followed behind him and made my way into his black SUV. The drive over to Casey's house was quiet and rather uncomfortable, but as soon as we got there, he handed me some sort of tape recorder and a pair of earphones. He said, "I'm going in alone, but I need you to listen carefully to everything she says. Try to make connections between anything you may learn and everything you already know. But I need you to stay cool and composed, Alex. I will pressure her heavily. So it is more than likely that Casey will disclose some information that is new to you. But no matter how angry it makes you, you have to stay here and stay focused, understood?" This shook me up a bit. I wasn't ready to find out what Sophia had been hiding from me, but I was certain that I was going to hear it anyways. Hoffman is intimidating to say the least, and I just know that if there truly is a big secret that Sophia had trusted Casey with, Hoffman would be able to get it out of her with ease. Part 2. I observed anxiously from the vehicle as Hoffman made his way to Casey's house. It was 8:21 p.m. when he gave the door 4 firm and loud knocks. He was about to knock for a 5th time when a short, blonde-haired woman greeted him with a confused expression on her face. "Good night, Mrs. Atkinson. My name is Detective Mark Hoffman, and I am here to ask you a few questions regarding the disappearance of your sister, Sophia Atkinson. Can I come in, or would you prefer I take your statement from outside of your residence?" That was a sneaky trick by Hoffman. Casey wasn't legally obligated to tell him anything, but his concise and confident demeanor would make her think she is. "I told you this guy is good." Sure, Mr. Detective. Please come in." Hoffman took a glance at me in his car, before calmly walking into Casey's house. I heard a loud beep noise coming from the tape recorder-esque device that he handed me moments before. He just activated a wireless microphone hidden in his tie. The door closed and my visual presence was gone, but thanks to that little microphone, I could still hear everything that was going on inside of that house. "Wow, okay. I didn't even know she was missing before you came here. When did this happen?" Casey asked with a genuinely terrified tone. God, her voice sounded just like Sophia's. "I'm not sure if you understand the dynamic here, Mrs. Atkinson, but I'm here to ask questions, not to answer them." I understand, Mr. Detective. I'm sorry, so how can I help?" Again, I'm not here to answer questions. Think of this as an interview. Whatever you say won't help or hurt anyone but yourself, so I would advise you to answer each of the following questions honestly and to the best of your knowledge. Understood? "Yes, Detective. I'm sorry." I couldn't help but feel bad for Casey. This girl was probably relaxing on her bed when suddenly she learns that her sister is missing, and that she is considered somewhat of a suspect, or at least that's how Hoffman made it seem. She sounded so scared and vulnerable. "Please take a seat," Hoffman said. "Yes, sir," Casey replied. "Mrs. Atkinson, do you consider Mr. Alex Davis a friend of yours?" I felt a chill down my spine when I heard my name being mentioned. Well, sort of, yeah, I mean, she's my sister's husband, so obviously I care about him and stuff, but we're not like super close friends or anything." "Did he do something to Soph?" "It's a yes or no question, Mrs. Atkinson. Shall I repeat it for you?" Hoffman shot back without even acknowledging Casey's inquiry. "No, I do not consider him a friend," she said with a much more composed tone to her voice. That stung. I mean, I could have probably guessed she'd say that, and assumed that I had something to do with Sophia going missing, but it still felt bad. Hoffman just barely started, and I already wanted to step out of the car and go talk to her myself. This wasn't gonna end well. Did Sophia Atkinson show any signs of being mistreated by Mr. Davis? Not mistreated exactly, but she did on occasions express being unhappy with the state of their marriage. What? What occasions? What the fuck is she talking about? I wanted to go in there and find out more. But I stayed calm, just like Hoffman told me to do. Please go into detail about said occasions. What exactly did she feel unhappy about? Well, she sometimes talked about how Alex has really bad temper issues. And I can assume he's probably an alcoholic from all the stories Sophia told me. She felt really upset whenever Alex drank more than he should have, because that's when he really loses his mind, according to her. That answer made me lose it. Why didn't Sophia talk to me about this? I was growing more impatient with every second that went by. I wanted to go in there so bad. And could it be possible that Mr. Davis had one of his outbursts in the days leading up to Sophia's disappearance? Well, definitely. It's more than possible. I think it's very likely, actually. He did have those outbursts quite often, according to my sister. I punched the glove box and grinded my teeth when I heard that. I knew it was true, and that hurt me more than it angered me. Did Sophia Atkinson ever consider ending her marriage with Mr. Davis? Yeah, on many occasions, but she expressed a concern for her well-being if she did. She was scared of what Alex might do to her afterwards. Okay, what the fuck? Casey was literally turning me into the prime suspect of the case with the guy I hired right there. I couldn't sit here like an idiot and take this for much longer. Did Sophia have a backup plan, if you will, for Mr. Davis? I didn't even want to hear what Casey had to say about that. Sort of. She was going to meet up with a painter she met on the beach. That was supposed to happen a few days ago, but she canceled on him. She told me she just couldn't do that to Alex, and she felt super guilty after. I was simultaneously relieved and completely enraged when I heard her answer. What painter? How could Sophia even consider cheating on me with a fucking painter? And a painter she met on the beach, for God's sake. Probably some junkie who makes $2 a day selling his shitty drawings to people who just feel bad for him. But at least she came to her senses, right? Please elaborate on this painter individual. What is his name and where does he reside? His name is Jamie. I can't seem to remember his last name though. Maybe she didn't even mention it to me. And as for the second question, I have no clue where he lives, but he works at the beach, in a big blue tent by the main bar. Fucking loser, I whispered to myself. To the best of your knowledge, how did Jamie feel about Sophia canceling their date? A date? Holy shit. He didn't take it well. From what I know, he tried to get in contact with Sophia very often. She even blocked his number and he started calling her from a different phone. It got really, really bad. So bad that Sophia had to change her phone number to avoid him. She lost all of her contacts because of this. Oh, that explained the whole missing profile picture incident. I wasn't sure how to feel. And did he try to contact Sophia in person? Maybe show up to her house on some occasion? I don't know, but it wouldn't shock me if he did. And could have a face-to-face confrontation between the two of them lead to Jamie harming Sophia in any way? Wow, maybe yes. I didn't think of that. Oh my god. Casey sounded worried when she said that. I should have been worried too in hindsight, but then and there, I felt like I was losing my damn mind. I wanted to have a chat with this Jamie guy, maybe even stab him to death and throw his body in the sea too. I will not take any further questions from you. Thank you for your collaboration, Mrs. Atkinson. No problem, Detective. Let me know if I can do anything else to help. It sounded like Hoffman was making his way out of Casey's house, and sure enough, I saw him walk out with a blank expression on his face. and start to walk towards me and his car with a steady pace. He stepped into his car and began the drive back to my house without saying a word to me. It was now 9:08 p.m. When we arrived, he gestured for me to unlock the door, and as soon as I did, he walked inside with no hesitation and made his way to my kitchen to pick up his still full glass of whiskey and down it in one gulp. I'm really nervous about this Jamie guy. He gives me the heebie-jeebies. That was the most informal thing Hoffman had ever done and said since I met him. I quickly snapped back to my senses and replied, "Yeah, detective, I feel the same way. I want to kill that guy right now." "Don't worry, I do too. I would go over and question him right now, but it's late, and I imagine he's probably gone by now. But first thing tomorrow, I'll pay him a visit at his little tent." It seems like the alcohol really loosened Hoffman up. I thanked him for his help and wished him a good night. He then firmly shook my hand and handed me his business card. I realized I didn't have his number yet, as I had contacted him through Max's phone, but that issue was now resolved. He made his way out of my home. "Hey, thanks for the drink, by the way. Take care of yourself, Alex. I'll see you tomorrow," he said as he stepped into his car. Wow, a cop drinking and driving. I never thought I'd see that. I waved him goodbye and closed the door. I immediately collapsed onto the couch and started crying tears of rage. Whoever this Jamie guy was, and whatever he looked like, I was going to fucking kill him. In the middle of my breakdown, I decided to call Max. He almost instantly picked up, and we shared a short but meaningful conversation. "Hey brother, how did it go with Hoffman? Man, that guy is a complete badass, isn't he? I imagine you already figured out what happened to Soph, right?" His demeanor took a 180-degree turn as soon as he heard me still weeping tears. "Ah, shit," I heard him whisper with a terrified tone. I told him all about Hoffman's chat with Casey, and especially about Jamie the painter. "Dude, I know that motherfucker. He's bought a few beanies and ball caps from my shop before," he said with an enraged tone. "What does he look like?" I desperately asked. "Nothing this pair of fists can't turn into shreds, buddy," he replied. I urged Max not to do anything. Hoffman was going to go question him first thing in the morning, and that was final. Max sounded a little disappointed at me denying him the opportunity to beat Jamie's ass, but we had to be smart about this. He promised not to do anything directly, but he did say he and his staff were going to keep a close eye on Jamie. I didn't contest that, as I figured a few extra pairs of eyes couldn't hurt, and thanked him before hanging up. Downing the glass of whiskey Hoffman served a few hours ago, and passing out on my couch. I woke up to the sound of my phone ringing. It was a text from an unknown number. It read, "Good morning, Alex. It's Detective Hoffman. I have many things to share with you, but one is definitely more urgent than the rest. Please listen to the following audio file." The text had a 6-minute audio file attached, so I grabbed a pair of earphones and started to listen. "Mr. Jamie Watkins." Mr. Tall, angry British guy. I'm guessing that last bit was Jamie's voice. He sounded like a complete douche. "Good morning, Mr. Watkins. My name is Detective Mark Hoffman, and I'm here to ask you a few questions regarding the disappearance of Sophia Atkinson." I could hear a light scoff coming from Jamie. He then stayed silent for a few seconds before speaking again. "I have no idea who you're talking about, Detective," Jamie said with a sarcastic tone. I could visualize a huge grin on his face as he said that. "Frankly, Mr. Watkins, I know that is not true, so I am going to remind you that if you choose to lie again during your statement, you can and will be charged for misleading an investigation." Hoffman sounded like he was slightly losing his control, which definitely was out of character. "And frankly, Mr. Detective, I'm not obligated to tell you anything, so I think I would rather have you stop wasting my time. and stop drawing my attention away from my work. Can't you see I'm working on a new piece here? God, you cops are such a pain in the ass. You are correct, Mr. Watkins. You are not obligated to tell me anything. I'm sure you definitely aren't obligated to tell me anything. Hoffman angrily replied, as I could hear the sound of his handgun being ruffled around in his belt. He probably flashed the gun to Jamie in an attempt to intimidate him. I learned it clearly didn't work as soon as Jamie spoke again. Wow, yeah, that gives me even more of a reason to ask you to leave. If you do so right now, maybe I won't tell your boss, Sheriff Strom, that you literally just threatened me with a weapon. How does that deal sound, Mr. Marky Mark? I do not work under Strom, but thanks for the warning, Jamie. I imagine this would be an appropriate moment to disclose the fact that I have already gathered enough evidence to put you under arrest for the kidnapping and possible murder of Sophia Atkinson, but hey, you should definitely continue to lie and provoke me. I wanted to believe Hoffman was lying when he said that. I just didn't want to believe it was possible that my Sophia was kidnapped, much less murdered. Then why haven't you arrested me yet, asshole? Jamie quickly scoffed back, sounding like he's completely unbothered by Hoffman's threat. Because I want to help you, Jamie. I can help you if you help me. Tell me what you know about Sophia's whereabouts, and I promise I'll make sure that you don't even get looked at as a suspect. Jamie stayed quiet for an uncomfortable amount of time, before he let out a light chuckle and said, Alright, look. I was supposed to come over to her house one night when her husband was away, but then she rescheduled our little date to yesterday morning. Okay, what? I thought Sophia canceled their date, but she met him the day that she went missing? This isn't looking good. Why would Casey lie? Or maybe she was being honest and Sophia lied to her about Jamie. Or maybe it's fucking Jamie who's lying. I definitely wanted to believe the latter possibility. And did you see her yesterday morning, Mr. Watkins? Yeah, I did. We went on a trip to Malu Island to grab lunch and a few drinks, but that's all I know, I swear. Malu Island was a small but beautiful section of land about a 20-minute boat ride away from our town. Please go into further detail about this trip, Hoffman said. Well, nothing sexual or even romantic took place. We met at the shore at around 8:30 a.m. and bought 2 tickets to Maru Island. We didn't really do anything major once we were there. We just talked for a while and shared a few drinks at the main bar, when she suddenly stood up and went to the bathroom. That's the last time I saw her. So she went to the bathroom at the bar and never came back? Hoffman asked with a distrustful tone. That's correct. I waited for about 20 minutes when I figured she just stood me up, so I got up and left. Jamie replied. Hoffman took a deep breath before speaking again. Let's talk about you for a second. Do you work here at the beach full-time? Is selling your, well, art your main source of income? Correct. Jamie confidently shot back. And where do you currently reside? Hoffman asked again. I live in a trailer home just outside the Bay Area. It's maybe 10 blocks away from here. I'll write down the address. I could audibly make out a scribbling sound. Very well, Mr. Watkins. I will not be taking any more questions from you at this particular time. However, I have a feeling we'll be seeing each other soon. The recording ended with that last statement from Hoffman. I felt more confused than enraged. Clearly, someone was lying, and I desperately needed to know who. I guess I got caught up in my own head because without really paying attention, almost unconsciously even, I got up to grab the bottle of scotch, and just as I was about to give in to my alcoholism, I was brought back to my senses with the sound of anxious knocking on my door. It was Max. My friend greeted me with one of his signature comfort hugs and quickly made his way to my kitchen as I closed the door behind us. Dude, I got some bad news for you, and you're gonna want to hear it. he said as he opened my fridge and tossed me a beer can. I was curious to hear what he had to say. Try to stay calm, alright? One of my cashiers, Jesse, told me just now that he saw that Jamie guy sneaking into his tent with a big black trash bag, and it looked like whatever was in it was moving. I felt a chill down my spine when I heard that. Could it be? Part 3. Max and I devised a plan in an attempt to catch Jamie red-handed. We were going to keep a close eye on him all day long, and when he finally decided he was done selling his drawings for the day, we were going to follow him home in Max's car. The stage was set. Max and I were positioned on the roof of his surf shop with a pair of binoculars in hand, and sure enough, there was Jamie. He was lounging on a foldable chair inside of his ever-so-charming blue tent, with his paintings on display like they were the lost work of Da Vinci. Oh, and a really noticeable smell of marijuana emanating from a sloppily rolled joint in his left hand. I swear to God that if you look up the word douchebag in the English dictionary, the first thing you'd see would be a picture of this guy. I really can't understand why he was still there. It was 5:08 p.m. and by the look of it, every potential client of his already left the beach, plus it's not like anybody in their right mind would pay the ridiculous price that he charges for a piece of his art. Maybe he doesn't arrive at the beach so early and leave so late to sell his drawings. Maybe he does it to scout his victims, to get close to vulnerable people without them suspecting anything. Maybe that's how he got to my Sophia. I was lost in my thoughts when a firm tap on my shoulder brought me back to my senses. Max pointed towards the tent as he quickly jumped from the rooftop and unlocked his car. Dude, look, he's leaving. Hurry the hell up or we're gonna lose him. I quickly followed behind him and got into the passenger seat as fast as I could. As soon as I closed the car door, Max started driving almost recklessly, trying to keep eyes on Jamie's white van. We managed to get behind him without causing any suspicion, but I could tell Max and I felt equally as confused when instead of turning right, away from the Bay Area and towards where the trailer home he told Hoffman about would be, he took a left towards the wealthier side of our town. We followed close behind as the white van made its way into an old garage, just outside of Springfield, the neighborhood home to the most luxurious vacation homes and most stunning apartment complexes. We waited outside of the garage for about 5 minutes when suddenly, Jamie drove out of the garage in a insanely over-the-top red sports car. It looked like something straight out of a Grand Theft Auto game. Max let out an audible gasp of pure shock. I instead stayed silent for a while as we followed that ridiculously expensive car. Holy shit, how much do you think that thing is worth? I said. I don't even know, man. Like a couple million at least, but the real question is, how the fuck did he pay for that? Max replied while confusedly shaking his head. Maybe he stole it, I don't know. There's no way he paid for it. I mean, I've never seen anyone buy his shitty paintings. I said, that's the only possible explanation I could think of. Max let out a soft chuckle at my reply. Dude, Alex, you're such a gullible little goofball. I mean, it's obvious this whole painter thing is complete bullshit. The guy doesn't live in a trailer home, and he most definitely doesn't make a living out of selling paintings on the beach. He's hiding something, and we're gonna find out exactly what it is. But that doesn't make any sense. If you were a millionaire, why the hell would you pretend to be a junkie? Surely it would be the other way around, right? I said. Well, maybe he doesn't want people to know that he's a millionaire, Max replied. But why? If I was a millionaire, I would be delighted if people knew. Why would anyone not want to take credit for that? I confusedly stated. That's exactly what we're here to find out, Max confidently replied. Earlier that day, before my friend and I decided to go on our investigation, I got a text message from Hoffman. It read, Hello, Alex. I should tell you what I've been up to since our last interaction. I've decided that in order to eliminate all doubts regarding Mr. Watkins' supposed encounter with your wife, I had to investigate Malu Island. So I did, and I discovered absolutely nothing that could connect Mr. Watkins to the disappearance of your wife. Although, on second thought, I think it would be convenient if you took a look for yourself. Perhaps the two of us should travel there tomorrow morning and give the island another sweep. But to be honest with you, personally, I reckon that the supposed encounter never even took place, or at least in the way that Mr. Watkins described it to me. Then another text message after it. I can't describe how uncomfortable this individual makes me. I have a really, really bad feeling about him. I'll pick you up at your house tomorrow morning, just after I pay our little friend another visit. I'll see you tomorrow, Alex. Take care of yourself. The red supercar finally stopped, pulling into the driveway of a home I could only describe as surreal. Imagine the kind of property that the Wolf of Wall Street would own if he never got caught by the FBI, and times that by 10. Jamie calmly stepped out of the luxury vehicle and watched as two muscular men dressed in tuxedos greeted him, and one of them proceeded to park the car in the home's private garage. All Max and I could do was watch in disbelief as the scene before us unfolded. The home had a meticulously designed security system. It was no joke. There were cameras everywhere, at least 20 other unnecessarily jacked security guards dressed in tuxedos, a massive, electrified gate about 15 feet tall, and of course, because why not, there was a fucking sniper on the mansion's rooftop. It looked like a supervillain's hideout straight out of a video game. After analyzing our situation, Max and I quickly figured out that our options were quite limited. We only had two, actually. Option A, go home, or option B, die. Since we're not completely out of our mind, we decided to choose the first option and leave the investigative work to a professional, like our friend Detective Mark Hoffman, for example. We drove back to the surf shop and said our goodbyes for the day with a bittersweet feeling. We basically made no progress towards finding Sophia, and we're losing valuable time that in this particular situation could be the difference between life and death. But hey, at least we didn't attempt to break into a deranged billionaire's home. When I finally got home, the loneliness hit me harder than it ever did. My wife has been missing for more than 2 days now, and so far, all I've done about it is find out that she met up with a billionaire pretending to be a loser. She could be dead right now, or maybe she's still alive and in desperate need of some help. And yet here I am at home, alone, doing absolutely nothing to help her. I tried to change that by calling Hoffman and explaining everything Max and I saw in excruciating detail. I also sent him some photos I took of Jamie's car and his house. To my surprise, Hoffman seemed quite unbothered by this. He assured me that he'll get something valuable out of Jamie tomorrow morning, and wished me a good night. I'm ready to do something about it. I'm ready to step up for Sophia. Tomorrow, Hoffman and I will investigate Malu Island, and I swear on Sophia's name that I will not go home empty-handed. I will find something that can allow Hoffman to legally search Jamie's home, and then it's over. She'll be right there, alive and ready to finally come home with me. I miss her so much. I actually woke up at a reasonable time for once. It was 7:30 a.m. and I was ready to finally do something meaningful. I had called Hoffman the night before. I asked him to be present for his second interrogation with Jamie. I wanted to analyze everything about his demeanor. Any signs of guilt in his body language or matter of speech I was going to notice. Hoffman knocked on my door, and we decisively made our way into his black SUV. This made me reminisce about the time he interrogated Casey. The anxiousness and uneasy feeling was exactly the same. I was excited to find out more about Sophia's disappearance, but absolutely terrified about what exactly I could find out. Hoffman broke the silence. Right, Alex. Same thing as before. We will use the same wireless microphone technology we did last time, and the rules are still the same, yeah? If I'm being honest, I have no idea what I'll be able to get out of Jamie, so please keep a cool head. This could go extremely well or terribly wrong. But whatever happens, just stay here and do not leave the vehicle for any reason. Understood? Yes. Thank you, Detective, I said. We pulled up to the beach and Hoffman parked his SUV in a position that would give me a clear line of sight to the tent, but keep the vehicle from raising any suspicion. Hoffman handed me the same tape recorder thing as before, and gave me a pat on the shoulder as he stepped out of his car. I think up to that point, I had never been so nervous. Oh wow, look who decided to show up. My good old pal, Sherlock Holmes. I missed you, buddy. What have you been up to lately? Jamie said with a infuriating grin on his face. The show is over, Watkins. I now have conclusive evidence of your little side job. Or side life, I should say. And I imagine you wouldn't like it too much if that got out, would you? You'd probably lose a few clients if that happened. Jamie literally burst out laughing. How can someone be so relaxed when there's a trained detective interrogating them? Man, you crack me up, Mark. You're one hilarious dude, I'll give you that. I just wish you were as good of a detective as you are a clown. You're facing multiple charges that could lead you to more than 60 years in prison. Make that a life sentence in a few days when I connect you to the Atkinson murder. How exactly is that hilarious to you? Hoffman shot back. He's calling it a murder now? God, I really, really hope this is just a scare tactic. I can't even grasp the thought of my wife being murdered. Murder now, big shot? You don't even have a body, asshole. I literally own the police force, Mark. I'm perfectly aware of all the little scare tactics scum like you use to get people to incriminate themselves. You're pathetic, Jamie replied, that disgusting smirk on his face still intact. Well, what do you know? At least I tried. Hoffman said while reaching into his belt. He took out his handgun and fired a bullet into Jamie's foot. Holy shit. This is insane. Motherfucker! Jamie screamed out in pain, but his agony quickly turned into laughter. This can't be. The guy literally just got shot at, and he somehow finds this funny? And so the plot thickens. Did you have fun on your little field trip, Mark? Jamie was now in a full-on fit of laughter. There is something seriously wrong with him. You sent me to Malu Island to find nothing. How funny. Hoffman cocked his gun and aimed it at Jamie's foot once again. You wasted my time, so I thought it'd waste some of yours, Jamie said, still laughing hysterically. Hoffman then fired another shot into Jamie's foot. This time around, there was apparently no pain at all. In fact, it actually seemed to make Jamie laugh even harder. Tell me what really happened to her, or your head is next, Hoffman said with the weapon still firmly in hand. What really happened to her? Okay. What really happened to her is that I took her to my house and fucked her brains out. She begged me to stay, but I kicked her out as soon as I was done with her. Then after that, she probably killed herself when she realized she had to go back to Alex Davis. Jamie's fit of laughter got louder and more obnoxious with every word that came out of his mouth. I officially lost my mind when he said that. I didn't care anymore. I was gonna get out of the car, walk up to the scene, take Hoffman's gun away from him, and pull a bullet through Jamie's skull. I was in the middle of unbuckling my seatbelt to do just that when Jamie spoke again. This is priceless, Mark. If only you could see the look on your face. This play just keeps on getting better and better, and perhaps it's time for the final curtain, but it seems like all of the actors are yet to arrive. Jamie actually stopped laughing. His demeanor took a sharp turn into something a lot more menacing than infuriating. You know exactly who I'm talking about? That idiot you call your client, sitting in your car like a coward, listening to me right now? Come out to play, Alex. I wanted to go, and I most definitely would have done so if I didn't notice that Jamie had some kind of assault rifle hidden under one of his paintings. So instead I stayed in the car like a coward. At this point, I hated myself more than I hated Jamie. Hoffman noticed it too, and he carefully walked to the car, still facing Jamie. With the firearm in hand, he got in, and we drove away. That somehow went even worse than anything I could have imagined. Well, goddammit. Now we're dealing with an actual criminal. I told you this guy is bad news, Alex. I had that weird feeling about him since day one. Hey, let's waste no time. Let's go to Malu, I quickly replied. And that's what we did. As soon as Hoffman and I stepped out of the boat, we immediately started scouring every little corner of Malu Island. Not just the places that Jamie mentioned like Hoffman did last time. Every bar, restaurant, shop, and public area we went to, trying to discover any clues that could lead us to the truth. Our efforts were seemingly worthless until we decided to investigate that old, rusted well located on the most desolate area of the land. I really wish we didn't do that, but I'm also, in a way, glad we did. My sanity could not handle a single additional ounce of uncertainty, so discovering the truth, as absolutely heartbreaking as it was, felt oddly rewarding. We opened the well and our eyes met with nothing but a pit of darkness. However, the smell was a completely different story. The well emanated a pungent odor, the scent of rotting flesh and solidified blood. When Hoffman lit his flashlight to reveal the source of such a disgusting smell, I threw up in my mouth. My eyes stared in disbelief as my chest sunk like never before. What we discovered was Sophia's corpse, staring back at us with those lifeless eyes. To this day, that sight makes me stay up at night. I can't get that image out of my head. The way her mouth froze open, and her hands rested stiff on what used to be her thighs. In that moment, I couldn't do nothing more than just stand there, too numb to even react. I felt the urge to scream or cry, but my body just didn't respond. Hoffman and I just stood there, frozen. I can't even tell you for how long. Time just didn't feel real in that moment. Nothing about that situation seemed real to me. It was a terrible nightmare that I couldn't wake up from. This was and still is without a doubt the worst day of my life, and I can predict with almost complete certainty that it will stay that way until I die. Jamie Watkins, if by any chance you happen to be reading this entry, let me just tell you that the murder case coming your way should be the least of your worries. If you are unlucky enough to run into me one day, I swear that I will put you through the most amount of pain the human body can handle, and I don't give a shit if we're in public. I will tear the flesh of your bones and rip apart every single one of your organs, one by one. You took my life away from me. You took the only thing I had and fucking took her away from me. I swear to God that one day I will do the same. I don't care how much I have to sacrifice. I will go to any and all lengths to destroy you and everything you have, even if it costs me my life. Take this as a friendly warning. If you value your life, the best thing you can do is just plead guilty and hide in a prison cell like the dirty rat you are for the rest of your miserable existence. But even that won't help you. I will find you, and I will make you pay for what you did to me. Part 4. It's been a year since events of my last entry took place. This time has been very uneventful, but there's still some important things that perhaps I should share. Jamie Watkins got acquitted of the first-degree murder charge against him. I don't even care anymore. I could see it coming from a mile away. We didn't have DNA or any piece of real evidence, just the audio recordings from Hoffman's interrogation, and those got easily shut down, since there were no witnesses of the interrogation besides me and Hoffman. The judge didn't even allow it to be played for the jury, and even if he did allow it, Hoffman literally shot Jamie twice during the interrogation, so it would have done more harm than good anyways. Again, I don't care anymore. I learned the hard way that with enough money, you can get away with almost anything. I distanced myself from almost every person who was in my life before this nightmare began. I only really stayed in touch with 2 people, Max and Casey. Max is my best friend and he's been incredibly supportive of me, always there when I needed someone to listen to my drunken rants. And Casey? Well, I get the feeling that I like her a lot more than she likes me. I've stopped by her house quite a few times, and although she always allows me to come inside, she definitely seems very uncomfortable around me. But for some reason, this doesn't really bother me. I feel happy and safe when I'm around her. It's a feeling that I can't replicate with anyone else. When I talk to her, I feel like Sophia is the one listening to me. Her facial expressions, her body language, her smile, and even her scent just makes me feel at home. I suppose it makes sense, since she is my wife's twin sister, but there's still something special about Casey that I can't really explain. Max has been trying his best to keep me away from her. He says she's preventing me from moving on. He also once told me that I'm trying to replace one twin with the other, and as disgusting as it is, I think he's right. I know I have to do something about it. This isn't right, and it isn't fair for Casey. I tried to turn her into a Sophia simulator, and I think she noticed. Max told me about a friend of his, a middle-aged lady who used to work for him as a cashier. Her name is Monica. She quit a few months ago in order to set up her spiritual shop, and apparently it's been a huge success. Her clients are always satisfied, and she seems to magically get rid of people's problems. Just what I needed. I decided to give it a try because why not? It was gonna be expensive, sure, but I figured it's better to spend my money on something that could help me instead of buying nothing but pre-made food and whiskey. I drove there at night. Usually I would be playing some music, but ever since this whole thing happened, I can't seem to get enjoyment out of anything anymore. Every song I used to listen to reminds me of her. Same with every movie and every show. Hopefully this Monica person can help me live a normal life again, although I do have serious doubts. Most places that sell spiritual items end up being a complete scam, at least from my experience. Hopefully this changes my mind. I arrived at the shop about 15 minutes after I left my house. Monica greeted me at the door and invited me inside. "You must be Max's friend, Alex, right?" she said with a big smile. "Yes, that's me. I don't really know why I'm here exactly. There's something seriously wrong with me and I was hoping you could help me fix it." I replied, "Yes, Alex, Max told me all about you. I'm going to examine you if that's okay. Please, take a seat." Examine me? What does she mean by that? I probably should have asked her to explain this examination of hers, but I really wasn't in the mood to cause a scene. So I did exactly as she told me and sat down on an old, brown armchair accommodated behind the counter. She then placed some sort of stone on my forehead, gently holding it still with her cold hand. After a few seconds, she removed her hand with the stone still in it, and just stayed quiet for a while. It maybe took close to a full minute before she spoke again. "You're broken. Something really traumatic happened, and you simply haven't been able to get over it. You're lost. You feel like you need to replace something that you lost, but in reality, you don't know what you want. Give me a few minutes, please." "Well, yeah, no shit. I think I already knew that, Monica. So far, this isn't quite worth the $500 fee she's charging me. Or that's what I thought." She stepped into the back room of her shop, and shortly after, came out with a melting oven and a few plastic bags with powdered materials that seemed similar to cooking condiments, although I knew that they obviously weren't what they appeared to be. She then took the stone she had previously placed on my forehead and started to melt it. It was actually a soul crystal, as she called it. She started carefully measuring out and incorporating the powders into the hot goo. She kept on adding and mixing for about 5 minutes until she finally acknowledged me. She asked me to come closer, and so I did. Without any warning at all, she took my hand and pinched my finger with a small needle she had on hand. and as soon as a drop of my blood splashed onto the mixture, she spoke again. She softly whispered something with her eyes closed, and then poured out the hot mix into a steel compass to create the needle. It was something in Latin, I think, but what really caught my eye was the compass she made. Why did it need my blood, and why didn't she tell me anything before doing that? Monica handed it to me and briefly explained its functionality. This is what we call a soul compass. Follow the needle, and it will lead you to the thing you desire most above everything else. Maybe finding what you truly need can help you handle your grief a little better. If not, I'm always here to help. I thanked her and left. This got me really curious, so I decided to follow the needle until it stopped moving. It led me to Casey's house. Don't panic, I thought to myself. Maybe it's leading me to something inside of Casey's house, not Casey herself. I don't know why, but I thought it'd be a great idea if I wait for her to leave her house so I can take a look. Why do I keep putting myself in dangerous situations? Maybe that's why I so often see things I'm not supposed to see. At about 8 p.m., a little over an hour after I got there, I saw her leaving her house all dressed up for a night out, I suppose, but she was with Max. Why? I saw the compass needle following her every step as she walked by with my friend. At first I felt bad about breaking into her house, but now I find out she's been hanging out with my best friend. I needed to know more. I just couldn't resist. I stepped out of my car and carefully made my way towards her room. She always left the window slightly open enough for someone to sneak in. She was just as clumsy as Sophia in that regard. Before I knew it, I was in Casey's room, and nothing really stood out until I took a closer look at her desk. A bunch of messy, unorganized paperwork and 2 perfectly packaged and unopened envelopes. Fuck it, I thought, and opened the first one. It was a bank receipt for the purchase of a property in Paris. Holy shit. I didn't know Casey was moving to Paris, and I certainly didn't know that she had that kind of money. However, my, that's weird reaction quickly turned into a what the fuck when I opened the second envelope. It was a letter signed by Jamie Watkins. Dear Sophia, I would like to inform you that so far, everything is going swimmingly well. Thanks to Maximilian's surf shop, I've been able to move my product like never before. And as a thank you gift, I bought you 2 a nice apartment out of the country. I will allow myself to suggest that you 2 move there as quick as possible. I imagine the dental analysis for Casey's body will be in rather soon. And when that happens, the cover is blown. Best regards, Jamie Watkins.